Hey, this is Dave from MetalEpidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. Guys, Dave here from Metal Epidemic, back with another album review. And for this review, Duncan Kyle and I have been checking out the new album from Brooklyn sludge band Somnuri. The band's new album, Nefarious Wave, will be released on June 4th via Blues Funeral Recordings. That's such a cool label name, isn't it? Blues Funeral Recordings.
By any chance is Phil Anselmo involved with this? such an Anselmo-inspired name.
Totally is. Somnuri started when two multi-instrumentalists started sharing adjacent practice spaces. They heard like-minded styles and energies coming from next door. Justin Sherrill had played drums in Brooklyn bands Blackout, Tower and Bizarre, but yearned to take on guitar and vocals. He heard Phil San Giacomo from Family, Grandfather and Last Hours pounding out polyrhythms through the wall and thought this could be the foundation of something awesome. Somnuri self-released an ambitious and well-received debut LP in 2017, earning high marks from Decibel, Metal Injection, Visible Oranges and Metal Sucks, and powered ahead with a series of blistering shows. The arrival of bassist Philippe Armin in 2019 seemed to complete the band at last, with the addition of live vocal harmonies and slick yet thunderous low end. Nefarious Wave was mixed by Phil San Giacomo and mastered by Justin Mantooth at West End Recording Studios. So, if you listen to our monthly podcast, you will have heard a track from the new Somnuri album. And I must admit, I was quite excited to hear the rest of this because I really dug what they were doing on Beyond Your Last Breath, which was the track we played on the podcast. Some really cool ideas on that track. It had elements of sludge metal, a bit of prog, a bit of punk. There's a bit of kind of southern rock in there, but it's kind of, it balanced the line really well between the kind of heavy, kind of corrosive riffs and the harmony-soaked hooks. Definite hints of bands like Mastodon or High on Fire, even like kind of older Baroness and stuff as well. But it felt quite fresh at the same time. It didn't feel like a band that was just kind of sticking together like recycled ideas from other bands. So I was interested to hear how the rest of the album was going to play out. And I'm glad to report that I wasn't disappointed in the slightest with this release. It has a bit of everything, really. There are areas of this album where they do let their kind of more hefty side out, like on tracks like Tooth and Nail, where they really like ramp up the more aggressive side of their sound. That track, actually, I was getting little hints of Arm for Apocalypse in places. Just the kind of like the attack of that track and the gravelly vocal tone from Justin reminded me a little of Nate from Arm for Apocalypse. But then at the opposite end of that, you've got tracks like Desire Lines, which is way more melodic and kind of fuzzy sounding, and more in the line with like bands like Torche or Flow or something like that. It's got the like heaviness, but the riffs are loaded with this like kind of spacey, kind of doomy tone that really opens up the band's lighter side, both like musically and vocally. Then you've got these more kind of like progressive style riffs on Watch the Lights Go Out, which take you more on a bit of a kind of journey, but they still load the track with enough big moments to give you that kind of section of like sheer heaviness that you can just kind of headbang to. Then you've got tracks like In the Grey, which is probably the track that stood out for me the most. It verges on like almost like melodic death metal territory in the verses. Like it's really fast and like vocally very scathing, but then the chorus kicks in. It feels like something Mastodon might do, you know what I mean? I just loved how they concluded that track though. That big kind of like sluggish, like sludgy groove was a brilliant ending to that track. I think that track could have actually worked as an album closer, if I'm honest, but they close with the title track, which does close the album quite naturally, but it was probably my least favourite track, to be honest. I enjoyed like the vocal harmonies, but like musically I felt like it didn't really shift gear much, to be honest. But small gripe, to be honest. That aside, I really liked what these guys have done with this album. I think it's got a ton of variation, some really interesting song structures. It's a sludge album, but not necessarily a standard kind of paint by numbers sludge album. It ticks all the appropriate boxes that you'd want from a sludge album, but it has the slow crushing riffs and grisly vocals, but also gives you a hell of a lot more contrast in terms of like the tempo, the rhythm, and the textures that you would normally get from a typical sludge album. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I played this a ton actually. It's very addictive. Once you've played it a couple of times, the hooks get right in your head, and I just want to kind of stick it on more and more. So yeah, not disappointed with this one at all. Duncan, what did you make of this one?
This is a Duncan album, Dave. This is a Duncan album. Yeah, you're right. So I edit the podcasts. Yeah. And when I edit the podcast, like I've said this before, you tell us what songs are going to be played on the podcast, and then we, using audio wizardry, we put them in later on. So me and Kyle don't get to hear them, right? We just tend to go in the break where we hit stop. Dave tells us roughly what it's going to be like. And I actually personally feel you undersold this track to me, because I heard it during the edit, and it was one of the few occasions that when, like, I'll play the songs while I'm fitting them in. When it finished, I was like, oh, let's just do that again. So I played it again while I was still editing away. And I really, really liked it, so much so that I went on to Apple Music, other music tools are out there, and hit the pre-order for the album. So you got an additional track, which I also listened to, which I fucking dug as well. Yeah. And I kind of had in my head what I thought it was going to sound like. Mm-hmm. And what I loved about this is how much it subverted that expectation almost from jump. You're right, this is the album that is all about like contrast and really embracing the different elements of sludge. This band is almost like a weird, like you see those things where they, like in old medieval times, like to bore the listeners to fucking tears, in old medieval times, what they would do is they would hand stitch tapestries to basically detail different history. It was the early day history book, and this is kind of like a history book of sludge. Like you're getting like huge bits of stuff which feels like kind of very late 70s, 80s sounding kind of gnarly sludge, with nods to things like Black Sabbath. But you're getting, like, on some tracks you're getting like the most cutting edge, this is what sludge sounds like in 2021, and they just infuse those elements all the way through. There's great mixtures in terms of tempo, in terms of what they're doing in the guitar. Love the bass tone on this. The bass tone is yas. Love the vocals. Like, I love how they'll switch up very quickly from doing, this track is about as abrasive and gravelly as you can get, and then the next drop melody, and it kicks right in. And it's difficult to not compare to Mastodon, because Troy Sanders has spent the last 20 years now like acquiring the sound that he has, which is very similar to the melodic vocals that Somnuri do, and they do it really, really well. I think the musicianship on this is top drawer. I love the guitar work. I love how it kept me guessing all the way through it. There is song structure here, but it's not paint by number song structure. So I really enjoyed that. There's an elasticity to the dynamics in this as well, where they really will go and stretch a song probably as far as you should before bringing it back in quickly, just to remind you, remember, this is how this song goes, or remember that riff that you really liked at the start, here's it here again. I really enjoyed that. The production is magnifique. I love the production on this. It's fucking huge and nasty and fuzzy and dirty, and just all the things you want from a band that are tackling this genre of music. It's clear they're very talented at what they do. My mind is blown that they used to be a two-piece. Like obviously they're not now because they've got the bass in, but I've like curiosity being as it is, I would love to hear what a two-piece version of this sounds like, because it just feels to me, another band, we're reviewing this in the same night as another band that were a three-piece, another band that sound monstrous for a three-piece, interestingly enough, same kind of adjacent-y sort of genre. How these sort of bands can accumulate so much noise with so little musicians, and you've got other bands that have like fucking 7 musicians that like turn out stuff that don't feel nearly as monstrous. I don't know if it's an overcompensation thing, potentially. But yeah, this is a fucking great album. Very much like yourself, Dave. This was a repeat spinner for me, because it's just a really easy listen. It's under 40 minutes. The tracks, interesting enough, get longer as the album goes on, which I kind of love. The short songs are all the first like 2 or 3, and then after that, like strap in, right, 5, 6, 7. You know, like they just start like, but once again, it kept my interest all the way right through it. They never really have a moment where, from myself anyway, I know you were saying a couple of things that, you know, maybe didn't land for you, but for me, like it all just fit really, really, really well. Really, really solid. It's a great album. I kind of think this one's awesome, if I'm honest.
Nice. Kyle, what about yourself?
This album I have listened to, let me check, 5,001 times. I've had it on almost constant repeat because it's just that good. I really, 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 really like it. I mean, I'm not super into Sludge and all that stuff, but this is, so I can't pick out all the influences that you guys did, but it just spoke to me on so many levels. The production is, how many times have I said this? I don't know. This is going to be the 3rd time I've said this since I've started doing this. The production is perfect. It is. It just suits the band down to the ground. It's not too polished. It's not shit in any way. It's absolutely incredible. And the song structures, they keep you guessing, they keep you going. And I love how they layer the two vocalists over each other, the bassist and the frontman. At the same time, one's going high with the screams, the other one's doing his epic clean vocals, and it just mixes together so extremely well, and I love it. And yeah, the musicianship is amazing, the songwriting is amazing. I could listen to this forever. If this album isn't on my top 10 list at the end of the year, it is going to be a hell of a year, let's put it that way, because I really loved it. I absolutely just, what's the word, like clamped onto it right away as soon as it started, and it just kept me all the way through, and I was like, okay, and we go again, and we go again, and we go again. You've got to listen to 4 albums this week, Carl. Fuck you, I'm going to do this. So, no, I mean, and reading their story as well, like they just happened upon each other because they heard some drums coming through the wall. I thought it was amazing,
How very cool of them.
It's great,
Tool's the same. It's like their drummer didn't show up for practice, so Dana Carey felt sorry for them. He owned the studio, and he jumped. Who is 60 today, by the way.
It's insane. Yeah.
Dana Carey's 60. We've been sharing that video all week of him playing that song from last year, and it's fucking mind blowing. He hits so hard, by the way. Like in certain bits he's playing, I'm like that. They're just in front of you. You don't need to hit that hard. Sorry, this is not Tool time with it. Although Tool time's something else, isn't it?
It's always Tool time somewhere. Nah, I don't know how much I can spaff all over this album. It's just insane. It's so good. It's gonna be my rotation. I'm gonna go out and buy it. I know we got it for review, but I'm gonna go out and absolutely buy it and get the t-shirt and everything.
We've got a contract here. Album. Only I'm allowed to use semen-based jokes on our, like, you're not allowed to come in here and steal my, I was going to say steal my jizz,
sorry,
but
I promised myself I wouldn't jerk off this week, but this album made me do it, so.
So don't listen during No Nut November. Listen, ladies and gents, don't do it. It's a trap.
It's the 1 week in May.
Okay.
No, this is fantastic, so. Don't sleep on this album, go listen to it.
Yes. Ratings. What are we thinking for this new album from Somnuri?
We're going to be all over the shop. I can already tell.
We probably are, yeah. I think it's a really solid album. As I said, a couple of wee issues with it, but nothing major. And I've played it quite a lot. At the moment, I'm probably feeling a 4 out of 5 for me. But I would not be surprised if that creeps up to a 4.5 later in the year as I've listened to this more. It is quite addictive, so I can see myself going back to this. But at the moment, I'm a 4 out of 5. Duncan?
I'm a creepy creeper, so I'm at 4.5.
4.5.
Well, yeah,
nice.
It's like with a bullet. I get a feeling we might be creeping up another 0.5 here for the first time from Kyle in 2021.
It's a 4.5 from me as well. No, I loved it. I really did. It's one of the best I've heard this year and last year. It was a pleasant surprise. So 4.5 out the gate.
4.5.
Yeah.
Nice. Excellent. So this one drops on June 4th on Blues Funeral Recordings. If you want to check them out, it's facebook.com/Somnuri. I'll put a link in the description below to their Facebook and to their Bandcamp page so you can check out the album. That is the review. If you've heard any of the singles or you've heard the album, let us know what you think. Stick some comments in below. Happy to hear them. But we'll be back with another review very soon. But until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
See you later.
Freedom on the best, we're nothing.